Alright, so what we have on the bench here today is one of the recent Xbox 360s. This one here has a problem reading discs. It will read discs, but I guess from what the person has told me, is that it'll error out or it will skip or stop working altogether. So my assumption is that the laser assembly is starting to die. The output of the laser can be adjusted on the laser assembly itself. You have a CD and a DVD adjustment where you can compensate for this, but I don't like to do that because eventually you're gonna need a new laser, so you might as well just do it right the first time, and you have no guarantee that that's even how long that's gonna last if you adjust the output. So you might as well just for $5 to $10 to replace the laser in about a half hour's worth of work. It's just not worth it. If you're going to go in there and adjust the pots and have the whole thing apart, you might as well spend the extra 5 minutes and just pull the laser out and replace it. So I'm not going to show the disassembly of this because there are way too many videos online for that. So I'm just going to disassemble it, and I'm going to take a look at the laser assembly, make sure there's no dust or anything like that, or a torn ribbon cable. I'll make sure everything's good before we throw a new laser at this. Alright, so we got the case of the Xbox 360 open, and what you got here is almost just like a regular CD DVD drive, and the laser is inside this. This is a model DG-16D4S, number 14C. We might have to order the laser according to this. So this manufactured in November of 2010. So let's get inside here, and we'll have to pull the drive out. It looks like it's serial ATA. It appears to be, at least it looks like it. So we'll disconnect that, and we'll pull the drive out, and we'll slide the drive apart and see if we can find anything going on. Alright, so let's take a look under the scope here and see if we can find anything obvious that's wrong with this. We'll check the ribbon cable, and we'll check everything on the laser assembly here, make sure there's no loose wires or anything, and if we prove that everything is good, then we'll just order a new laser, which I can believe you can get anywhere from $5 to $10. So let's take a look at the laser. I know it's been cleaned once before by the owner, so let's just take another closer look at it. It's got a little bit of crap on there, but it looks like it's got a hair on it. Let's take a Q-tip. But it's not the center of the focal point, so I'm not really worried about that. Yeah, okay. I thought it may have been a scratch, but it wasn't, so.
Good evening.
So, yeah, that looks okay. Let's make sure the connections here look good. Those look fine. Let's check on the side. Looks good. Everything looks good there. Let's take a look at the ribbon cable. Just a little grease. There appears to be no rips in the cable. Try to get some focus here. Yeah, there's no tears or any signs of wear, so probably good. Let's check the contacts. That looks fine. Alright, so as far as I can tell, let's see if I can get a zoom shot of this here. It's kind of a very hard angle. Let me zoom out a fair bit. You can probably see a couple adjustment pots right here. If you wanted to, you could turn these up. Alright, so that one there is the C, so that's CD. And that one's a D, so that's DVD. You can turn these gains up a little bit on the laser if you want to try and get more output. But like I said, you're already trying to adjust a gain for, you're trying to compensate a gain for a laser that's potentially dying. So it may work for a while, but I don't think it's going to last as long as it originally would have. So for the price, we'll just change the laser out. So we're going to have to source this laser. And we'll be right back in the next segment here. I will be uninstalling and reinstalling the new laser, and we'll see how that works out. Alright, so now we're going to remove the laser from the actual drive, and it's very simple. It's only going to take a couple of screws to do this. You're going to want to be able to, you want to use a screwdriver that's going to fit these screws properly, or else you can strip them relatively easily. This screw here is the first screw you'd have to pull out, and you don't want to lose that. So we're going to grab a pair of tweezers and grab this. And now this whole plastic piece should rotate up and off of the worm gear there, or whatever you want to call that. And we'll put that aside. And we'll probably want to clean some of this pet hair out of here while we're in here. And the other screw here is going to take one of the slide rails up. So we'll loosen this up. And this is holding a retaining clip that is holding on to the slide rail. So pull this up, and we'll pull the clip off. And now this should wiggle a little bit off to the left. What are we hanging up on here? Maybe. Okay, we have to slide the laser back a little bit. A lot of it. There we go. So you have to slide the laser, you have to kind of lift the laser up a little bit, press the circuit board down a hair on the back and get the laser to slide over the circuit board, and that shaft will come out to the left, then it will lift up. And if you look right here, you're going to want to remember that this little tension spring here is holding on this bottom rail. So we're going to want to slide this out of that area and just pull the rail right out from the laser. And on this side, it just comes right off, and that's it. That's the whole laser assembly right there. So now we can actually put the drive aside and put a replacement in. This laser happens to be a G2R2 laser. Now you're going to want to make sure you get the appropriate model laser for your Xbox 360, or else you can have some problems. Now the new laser is going to have a set of solder blobs, anti-static solder blobs, that we're going to have to remove for shipping purposes for ESD. We're going to have to end up removing that. And it appears that they're not on the original laser. So we'll find out when we get the new one what happens. But most likely for you guys will be instantaneously, because I'm not going to release this video till I have the new laser and everything's reassembled and tested and working. So we'll have to see what happens. So we'll see in the next cut. All right, so we've got our laser in the mail. This is the model right here. And if you're wondering where I got it, on Amazon.com for this particular model drive. We'll take it out. And we'll see. Actually, before I do that, since they shipped it with an anti-static solder blob on the circuit board, we're going to hook up the ESD. See if it works here. Come on. All right, I have my ESD strap on. So all right, well, I'm not sure if this bag is anti-static, but I know this isn't. So all right, let's take a look under the microscope here and see if we see a solder blob that we're supposed to remove. All right. Okay. I do see the solder blob. It is there on the left. So I'm going to remove that. See if we can get some focus. We'll zoom in a bit. That's better. Let's compare it to the old one. And if you look at the old one, you'll see where the solder blob was. So we just have to remove that blob right there on the left. Everything else looks exactly the same. So one thing I definitely want to do is check the pot resistance on each of these. I know the original was kind of low, so it could have been due to someone either detuning it, turning it up to compensate for the failing laser, or the fact that it was set like that at the factory, and quite possibly could have been the reason why it prematurely failed. So let's go to the test equipment cam here and we'll see what we get for reading on these pots. I think 4.6 is roughly where you want the DVD pot to be. No lower than 3 is what I'm reading all over the internet. So for all we know, that could be right, wrong, who knows. It all depends on the source you're looking with. Alright, so the original is set to 2.4. Oh, sorry, 2.14. Exact measurement. Alright. Yep, alright, so these two are connected. Wiper to one end of the pot is connected together, so essentially you can measure from this point to this point to get your pot resistance. 2.14. Let's check the new one. .96. Okay, so this one's higher. So we're going to go with that, and we'll see how it performs. And if it's all good, we'll leave it there. I'm hoping that they calibrate these before they ship them. They just don't just throw a random pot value on it and send it out the door. That would just be shitty. So let's remove that solder blob, and get this thing installed again. I'm going to move the old one away, far away, so I do not get these mixed up. Let's full screen that. Alright. Now I hope I can do this without having to fixture this. It's kind of a little unstable. I'm going to throw a little bit of flux on there. This should be really easy to do. If you have a soldering iron and some solder wick, I would assume that it should be no trouble getting this off here. I'm just going to trim this solder wick back a little bit. Okay, good. Let's go in for a nice shot here. That's it. Now we'll wipe the pads up here with a little bit of alcohol. I'm not going to put alcohol on the device. I'm going to put it on the Q-tip, so I don't want it running all over the place. I don't want to run into the laser by accident. Suppose I should have used my foam one instead. This is fine. Okay, good. Now let's make sure that the laser is indeed clean. Ooh, jeez. It comes from the factory like that. Wow. I am hoping that there is a plastic piece on that laser, or I don't know, I see something melted there. Almost. Right here, it almost seems like it's melted. Huh. I wonder if the old one has that. No. Looks good. Let's check this one again. And that's strange that that is indeed melted to some degree. But look at that lens. It's kind of scratched up. Or dirty. If you can see that in the light there. Well, I am going to clean that because I feel that that should be as clean as possible, and I am very surprised that it came to me like this. But for $8, I guess what can you expect? Better. Much better. Still has a few scratches, but they're not in the center where I would suspect would be the worst place to have a scratch. So, alright, well, let's let's install this. Let's get the drive back over here. Get this back in focus. All right. Now I'm going to take the rail, hook it back on. Let's take the laser, hook it back onto this rail here, lie it on the circuit board, slide the rail back into the laser assembly. We're going to throw a little grease on this once we're done to ensure that we have no stuck spots here. All right, let's see if we can do this. All right, so I've got that in there under that spring against that screw. Now I'm going to hook this onto this rail. And at the same time get it under, where are we here? Under that hook right there. So take a little bit of playing around here. Okay, it just takes a little bit of persuasion, I guess, but it goes in. You just have to kind of just push it up into this hook here, ensuring not to break anything. Okay, see, now it just slid off the circuit board. So yeah, it's a little bit of a fussy process there, but it did make it back in there. Now let's put the bracket back down to secure some stuff here. First, I'm going to throw a little bit of grease on this worm gear. And don't use a Q-tip when you put grease on this, because you will learn that that is a bad idea. You'll get all sorts of crap on there. I'm just throwing a little thin layer of grease on this worm. And we'll throw a little grease on the slide rail here. Thin, as thin as you can. Because if you get too much stuff slinging around in here, it could be a bad thing. You don't really have to go up from here because that's the end. So, just on the rail a little bit. Alright, so we're going to get that white clip piece that came off the left side. Get that ready. We'll lock down that rail now with this clip. See if we can get that little bit of crap out of here. I think it's just a hair. Didn't seem to go very far, did it? Yeah, whatever. Alright, let's get this clip back on. So it's going to want to put tension on that rail, so it's going to ride up a little bit, but you want that to hook in down the bottom there. So we got a screwdriver now. That figures. That figures. Maybe we'll get the screw started and then position the bracket. Okay, so it kind of found its own home. Now I kind of held the rail a little bit to the right. You want to make sure it's pretty much in line with this end stop. Just give that a little bit of a tweak because you don't want that popping off. And now we're going to put the worm gear follower on. Should pop right in there. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to take that off. I want to run this laser back and forth a few times here on the rail. Just make sure. You kind of have to push the circuit board down a little bit and just get that grease spread out. Make sure it's not binding anywhere. Alright, good. Then I'll put this on. Alright, it kind of pops down in there and seats in. I always like to rotate counterclockwise before screwing the screw into plastic. It kind of will, when you go to forward, you'll be able to feel the lead, and it won't cross thread anything. And this one's kind of tricky. Where is it? There it is. Alright, so that's in there now. So now what we have left is to hook this ribbon cable back up. And let's wipe off the grease. Oh, it's going to be one of those fussy. It's kind of at an awkward angle, and this closed on me, didn't it? Alright. So now it's just a matter of reassembling the drive and and we'll see what happens. Alright, it appeared to work. We've got the preview of the game playing, and there's no skips or disk read errors or anything like that, so I think it's good. Alright, so I'm going to put it back together, and that concludes this repair. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next.